climbed enough and the temperature's dropped enough that it's full trousers and hoodie for the first time in India at all. It's amazing. It's a real change just in one day from Nagpur up to here. It's beautiful. It's don't get sweaty in the middle of the day, too sweaty. Only gets up to about 30 degrees. It's balmy and it's just so green here, look. Back on the road. Morning. So, I'm over halfway between Pondicherry and Agra and Delhi, which is basically the entire, well, 45% of the, no, 3/4 of the way across the whole country. I've got the lingering cold, which is, you can hear in my voice, it's followed me all the way so far. And I'm now following a Google Maps route, taking me to Nashimhapur and then Agra, where I'll hopefully stay with a couch surfing contact, a warm showers contact, that Josiah Skeets introduced me to. Check out the podcast before. These roads are beautiful and actually surprisingly quiet. I'm currently in the Sapura range of hills, climbing up 700 meters. Not massive, but that height means that it's now 14 degrees in the morning, which is great. It's been a tiring leg, the longest straight amount of cycling I've done in India. I think it's worth it. India still amazes me every day. Look how beautiful it is here. So different to the coasts, dramatic beaches, and to the desert plains with a red dust. Here it's green, forest lined, beautiful. I'm just one day away from the desert plains south of Nagpur. 150k and the scenery is totally different. What a country you have here. My favourite. Look how my shorts have bleached in the sun versus my trouser leg. Sip off time. Found the perfect campsite apart from the rotting corpse of a abandoned cow. Oh well, let's keep searching. Here's the old road. Amazing. There's loads of places to camp. And I'm surrounded by forest and monkeys. In the forest. This is perfect, man. Perfect. So my normal process for setting up is waiting for it to get absolutely dark, but because this campsite is so good, I'm going to risk starting straight away. So first I have to wipe the back pannier off. Becomes my stool for where I can cook, or in this case eat peanut butter and biscuits. This pannier is exclusively stuff when I stop, which is a bit ridiculous to be honest. So in this one I have clothes, which also makes an amazing pillow, towel, which I don't really use because I use the wet wash bag. Water filter is currently in here, but that. A little bivvy. Where am I going to set up? Set up here probably. And sleeping bag. Put that down there. One of these panniers, one of them I need to use for my tent, so I can pop this inside one off. This has got food in the top of it as well, which helps. I can sit here and set it up and have the food. Extra biscuits, agua naturale. Look at our bed wipes. And in the bottom here, which is what I want to do, is my camping little Thermarest. That's it, that's my camping trio. Oh, and there's two things I do when I stop. Stop the watch for Strava. That will be uploaded on my phone in a minute. And I also put this on. This unbelievably cheap piece of kit is a satellite communicator, which is pretty basic. That's why it's so cheap, I suppose. But if you see on Twitter and Facebook the little OK message, that blinks for 15 minutes. Sends my GPS location up into that beautiful cloudy sky, and sends a text to my mum and dad to say I'm okay. Two quick wild camping tips. Sandals are important. Remember back to the Turkish video, I've had massive thorns whenever I've not used them for 1 second. So despite the weight, they're worth it. And also put your shoes, your second shoes, in some light when you're asleep. Otherwise you get insects in there, and if you don't pay attention when you're putting your shoes on in the morning, you have crushed insects in there, which could be worse in other parts of the world. The worst I've had is a slug, and when you ride the entire day in 30-degree heat with a slug, it's crushed to the bottom of your shoe. You don't want to know what it looks like at the end. That's 10 times. Okay, so a tour of wild camping kit for India. You've probably seen it all before, but I thought I would go over it. Everybody keep asking me. This is a Terra Nova Jupiter, a bivvy made in Derbyshire. It's brilliant because it's so low to the ground, it's very hard to see. You can pitch it in a field of crops and you're completely hidden from all sides. It's very, very warm, which is good, which is obviously a thing because it was made in Derbyshire, which is great for things like the Turkish mountainsides I've been on. For India, it's not so good because it's very sweaty. It's and you can't be inside it to do anything like eating. You can basically just lay down to sleep and just about read a book. It's got one pole in there, so I have about this distance in front of my face to use. So not so good in warm weather, but also just not so good to live in for like 82 days I've been on the road now. I quite like a small amount of space to like sit up and read, and it's not self-sustaining, self-standing, self-supporting. It's just got one pole, which means that if you can't get the pegs in, if the ground's rock or sand, it doesn't stand up, it's just a sock. So it's useless in those cases. Amazing piece of kit, and it's so small, so light, perfect. I'm going to keep it and use it for paragliding, for Volbiv flights in future. But I think this summer I might swap it for something bigger when I get a resupply run. Next thing, also UK made, I think, or maybe Ireland made. Cascade Designs, Middleton Island, is the Thermarest, which again I would not go anywhere without it. When I was a young kid in the Air Cadets, we went on a camp run by the Royal Marines, or by someone from the Royal Marines, and he had, for his entire camp set up, a basher, just a piece of cloth, a couple of bungees around 2 trees, and a Thermarest, and that was it. He just slept out there in his kit. But that was a critical thing for him. The only thing that I find with a longer term trip is that Thermarest versus India has not been good. You saw in my previous video the number of holes I have with it. I didn't bring enough repair kits, and the seam grip that comes in one of the repair kits has dried up because I've used it too much. So remember to bring a lot of repair kits. I've seen these amazing new Neo Air ones as well, which Thermarest have, which are tiny, absolutely tiny. But beware that, you know, considering most of those holes happened in one day in India, just rolled it out on the wrong bit of field, which was a thorn bush, and if you had a Neo Air, you would be repairing it for a long time. This one's maybe a little bit more hardy, and it has some foam in it, so that when it's flat, it's not entirely flat to the ground. And then my sleeping bag is nothing fancy at all. It's a Vango. I've had this since I was maybe, well, my dad bought it for me when I was a kid. I have no idea how old I was when he bought it for me. But what else do you need, really? I'm sure you can get smaller ones and lighter ones, but at the end of the day, if kit is stopping you getting on the road, this is a reason to say that you don't need the most cutting edge thing. Just use what you have in your cupboard. All of this stuff, the Terra Nova bivvy I bought new, but the other stuff I already had for years and years before. You don't need any specialist kit, well, any specially bought kit for this. Any camping gear you have will work. The only thing that I think is great is this cotton liner, which I bought from Amazon for just really, really cheap. That's brilliant because here in India, it's too hot. So this makes a nice extra mattress padding. And then I have the bivvy, I have the liner just as my sheet. And yeah, it's nice. Even in the sweaty bivvy. That is an overview of my wild camping gear for cycle touring. And there's a monkey. Now it's time for some food.